have people who've never written a line of code in their life build real businesses, make money off of that. I guarantee you it is very much possible. Just yesterday, I opened the Replit app and I go, hey, I need this app that lets me track 100 foods that I'm trying to feed my baby. 45 minutes later, when I'm done feeding her and cleaning up, the app is ready.
You can now deploy apps in minutes, not hours, not days. Can you pull up Replit and let's get started?
Let's do it.
Okay, so today's guest is Amol Jain, and let me start by giving some context. A few months ago, we got a vibe coding expert by the name of Matt Palmer onto the show. He's the development lead at Replit, and he broke down how you can build your first $1 million app using only AI agents, no coding required. You guys loved that conversation. Then something interesting happened. A couple of months later, Replit actually released their new agent, Agent 3, which is able to build software almost entirely by itself. It's autonomous. And so when I heard about it, I reached back out to Replit and we spoke with Amol, who's their head of product engineering and led the development of Agent 3 so that he could give you all of the tips and the information that you need to build your first successful app in minutes right from your phone. And so my intention with this episode is very simple. I believe that there are people watching at home, maybe it's even you, and you have all of these product ideas and business ideas, and the only reason you haven't brought them to life is because you tell yourself that you're not a software engineer, you're not a coder, you don't have the technical background to build things. Well, not today. After watching this episode, you'll be able to build software from your phone in minutes. And so my hope is that you listen to this conversation, you action some of the things that we talk about, and 6 to 12 months from now, you're DMing me to tell me that you've built your first successful app. And it all started with this video. That's my hope. But anyway, let's just get into the conversation. You're listening to The Callum Johnson Show. What is going to be the value to them of listening to the conversation that you and I are about to have?
Yeah, in a lot of ways with Replit, our mission is enabling the next billion developers. When we say developers, it's folks being able to bring their ideas to life. My hope is that in this conversation, we're able to show them how easy it is with a platform like Replit to, in natural language, describe what you're looking for, and Replit allows you to bring that vision to life, bring it to something that you can then have, working and be able to give to your users, to your friends, what have you.
Mm-hmm. What a big thing for me was even in the preparation, and I know even from our conversations, it was similar for you. There's this magic feeling of building that first piece of software and that process of something going from an idea to it's a tangible thing, it's right there. And so the interesting thing is, like I said in the beginning, you're the head of product engineering at Replit, but then you've also built your own startup in the past. And so I wanted to read this to you. You said this on your LinkedIn. You said, coming off my own startup, I was planning to take a breather. But then Replit popped up. I had always admired their mission of enabling 1 billion people to build software, but I was skeptical until I tried their new AI agent. It was pure magic. Prompt to a live app in 5 minutes. You then go on to say, I built an app to find good House Hunter episodes for my wife. I built an app to find good House Hunter episodes for my wife. Can you just take us back for a second to that first moment, that moment of magic of building that app that you did with your wife? Take us into that.
Yeah. So I had spent 6-7 years building my own company. As most of the listeners know, it's hard. It takes a lot of toll, and I had just made the hard decision to leave that company, especially with my second child. I had just had my second child, and figured it was as good of a time to ever take a break as there ever could be. And the idea was I'll just spend time with my family and enjoy this special time. So both wife and I were on maternity and paternity leaves and were just spending time with the baby. One day, my wife, as you would imagine, there was a lot of TV watching involved because the baby sleeps and you watch TV. And my wife loves this show called House Hunters. It's a show about buyers in markets across America looking at multiple options, house options, and then deciding the one they want to buy. She's obsessed with this show. She's obsessed with real estate. So we're sitting there binge watching these episodes after episodes. She wonders out loud of like, hey, aspirationally, I want to see fancier homes, like not in an elitist kind of way, but more just curiosity. She's like, it'll be more fun if I could see fancy homes in Southern California or something. And at that moment, I was like, I am an engineer. I can build this, but it'll take me days and days of work. I'm not going to do that. But I had heard of Replit, and I had heard of this recent buzz around the company of this bold claim, idea to app in minutes. And at that point, I decided I'm just going to pull this up. I type up, help me build an app that lets me filter for House Hunters episode by location and budget. And truly within 10 minutes, I had this working prototype that let us do exactly that, be able to filter down to an area we were interested in, set a budget limit, and be able to see those episodes. And it was just a mind-blowing experience because it earned me so many brownie points with my wife right away too, because she got exactly what I wanted. We spent a lot of time from there watching a lot more episodes. But it was just such a magical thing. Even for me, who's an engineer, who's had this power to build software for the longest time, being able to do that without thinking about code, purely in natural language, purely just uttering those words out into the ether, and then voila, you get this app fully built. It was just such a magical thing. I think that was the moment I really thought that this is something I want to work on. This is something I want to contribute towards.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's so interesting? I was thinking about this as you were speaking. Is like, I think traditionally, whenever we think about technology and technology companies, you imagine like these huge problems, right? Like you think about like what Uber's doing or like Airbnb, like these huge apps that are like very sophisticated and there's teams of engineers. And it's kind of with AI and vibe coding and some of these capabilities, it's like you now have these like everyday problems that the consumer can basically just go and fix for themselves using apps like or agents like Replit Agent. And so I'm curious for you because you have a very interesting perspective of like someone that's actually building the software at Replit. But then obviously like, you have these moments with like your wife or people that you know where they're also just building it as a consumer. What do you think is like the impact on humanity, on all of us, if Replit is actually successful in that mission of enabling like 1 billion people to build software? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think software brings leverage generally. With software, you can do more, you can automate things. The world now runs on software. But that power's been locked up with 40, 50 million software developers that we've had out there. What that means is a lot of ideas, a lot of problems go, a lot of ideas go unexplored, a lot of problems go unsolved because it's not accessible to the rest of the world, to the 7.5, 8 billion people. And if we make it possible for anyone to solve their problems, it should really help anyone be more productive at their jobs, be able to free up time in their daily lives for creative pursuits. It should enable a lot more people to build businesses. They should be able to, these ideas, they can create prosperity for themselves and for their communities. And with products like Replit, we're finally seeing that happen. We're seeing that happen in real time, where we have people who've never written a line of code in their life build real businesses, make money off of that. So I think it's gonna really have a monumental impact on how we operate as a society, because now everyone has power of making their lives better and pursuing their passions.
Yeah. No, I love it. We're gonna get into it of like by the time that someone finishes listening to this conversation, they're able to build their like first app using Replit. Before we do, I know even from our prior conversations that like that ability to build things and entrepreneurship and building businesses and products, it's actually very like personal for you. Like it's very meaningful having that kind of ability. I'm just thinking for that person that's listening at home who's still like, they're like a bit on the fence, even. They're like, is this really possible? Kind of thing. Can you just speak on what has been the impact in your life of being able to build software?
Absolutely. I think I attribute a lot of my success and even happiness to this ability that I was fortunate enough to pick up. I grew up in India with access to education, but in a lower middle class family, and there was always this desire to do more, to leave a mark on this world, and I was fortunate enough to get into a great programming school and get to learn programming, and it enabled me to make a move to the United States and to the sort of the heart of where all the software action is. It allowed me to build a great career, work on really successful products like Facebook or Airbnb or Replit now. It's just very it's been personally gratifying of building software that has a direct impact on people's lives and their livelihoods, and also personally I've been able to accomplish so much and provide for my family and such. I think it wouldn't have been possible without me learning coding and being able to do all these things. And I'm so like that's what gets me out of the bed every morning is the idea of bringing that exact power to everyone, that superpower of coding, because I really believe in that. I think it's a superpower that everyone should possess.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. The superpower of coding. Okay, let's bring it to people. And you know what's interesting? So, you know this, but a couple of months ago, we filmed an episode with your colleague, Matt Palmer. And I think like the thing that was kind of mind blowing for me, it wasn't just what we were able to create with Replit. At the time, it was Replit Agent 2. I know you guys have since come out with Replit Agent 3, which we're going to talk about. But it wasn't just what we were able to create, it was the speed. And there was something that Matt actually said during that episode. He goes, you can now deploy apps in minutes, not hours, not days. That changes the types of ideas you can even attempt. Can you just talk for a second about like being inside at Replit and seeing what people are actually building with the software? Are there any like success stories, examples that like you guys have seen internally of like, this person was able to build something incredibly quickly and is now actually, they have like a full business that's built off the back of agent?
Yeah, we see it very frequently. One of my favorite examples, and maybe this is not as widely applicable to starting a business, but I think it just showcases the power of what non-technical folks who don't know coding can achieve with Replit. I talk about this example a lot. I personally love it. It matches to people I work with on to day to day as well. But one of our Replit sells to large companies as well. Zillow is one of the real estate companies, is a client of ours. One of their one of their someone who works at Zillow, Mike Messenger, he doesn't really know how to code. He's not on the engineering team, but he discovered Replit. He had this idea in his head that he's always had for Zillow to be able to connect real estate agents to people who are buying properties. And he was able to, using Replit, vibe code this product, and it has since then delivered tens of millions of dollars of value for Zillow as a company. It was so amazing that now thousands of Zillow workers actually use Replit to build software for themselves internally, but also for their customers. I think it's a great story because in a lot of ways, Mike Messenger works at a tech company that has engineers at their disposal, but engineering time is limited, and he usually doesn't get even with his ideas here, he's not able to bring them to life because of that limitation on engineers' time. So the fact that he was able to do it by himself and create so much value for his company is pretty amazing to see. And we see similar examples play out for folks that are just starting out businesses and side hustles and earning real money using Replit.
Yeah. You know what? I think that one of the things that I've seen and like speaking with people and even like listeners of the show as well is you kind of have like two groups when it actually comes to building things. You have examples of people that will have like a ton of ideas and they'll get inspired and they never take like the step one to actually start building. And then on the other side of things, you have these stories like what you just explained with Mike Messenger, where like he's working a job and now he actually went out and built something that's creating like millions of dollars of value. And so before we get into, because we're going to get into the actual steps of how to build it on Replit, talk to me almost about the psychology, the way that someone should actually think about starting something on Replit so that this is actually the moment that they build their first kind of like successful piece of software.
Okay, quick break. I had to make a change when it came to my diet. And so let me tell you guys, I have these days where I'm running around nonstop. I'm talking meetings to recordings to research to then my personal life. And by the time I even think about dinner, I've either ordered something greasy off the delivery apps or I've completely skipped it. And so a few weeks ago, I decided I had to end this unhealthy loop that I was in. And so based off my friend's recommendation, I started getting my meals from Cook Unity, the sponsor of today's episode. Cook Unity is this chef-powered marketplace that delivers fresh, ready-to-enjoy meals straight to your door. Literally, guys, when I tell you, I'm talking about restaurant quality dishes from award-winning chefs. And so to take you behind the scenes, this week I had jerk chicken with plantain. I also had a Singaporean chicken curry. Both of them really tasty. I'm not just saying that. And it's cool because they have over 300 different meal options on their website. And so honestly, what my experience has been is that it saves me a lot of time. It takes 2 to 3 minutes to heat up the meals. And compared to buying a bunch of groceries and then cooking, and then you never end up using some of the groceries because you got busy, this is actually saving me money and time. And so if you want to go and try it for yourself, go to the link in the description, try Cook Unity today, and I've actually hooked you guys up as well. So when you try Cook Unity using that link in the description, you'll get 50% off your first order. And so thank you to them for sponsoring this episode. And let's get back to the episode.
Okay, quick pause. If you're looking to build something, this segment is for you. I remember when I started my first business, I spent more time figuring out how to start than actually doing the thing. And I was using all of these different website builders and plugins, payment tools. It felt like I needed 5 platforms just to sell one thing. Then Shopify, the sponsor of today's episode, changed the game. Shopify is a powerful set of tools that helps you start and manage your business. Whether you're selling t-shirts, candles, coaching services, whatever the thing is, it gives you everything in one place. One cool feature they've recently added is Sidekick. It's your own personalized AI assistant, and you can actually ask it to help you set up your store, write product descriptions, tweak your homepage, even run marketing campaigns. And the cool thing is that it doesn't just follow commands. It reasons through multi-step tasks. It's literally like having an AI business partner, which is so helpful in the early stages of building something. And so if you've got an idea in your head right now and you're ready to make it real, go to shopify.com/Callum Johnson to get started today. That's shopify.com/Callum Johnson. Thank me later, and let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, I think you were just mentioning this. It almost feels too good to be true, and I would encourage folks to sort of start small. Think of any problem that you've recently experienced just in your personal life and hoped that there was some app that solved for it, and try to build that and experience the magic yourself. I'll give you an example. My daughter, 7 months old, we're starting to introduce food to her. We're a pescatarian family, so a lot of food charts out there don't quite apply to us. We don't eat meat, so it's I'm not introducing beef to her. And I just wished there was an app that let me track what she's eating, how many allergens has she checked off. Really something more bespoke that only I need for my specific needs. And so just yesterday, I opened the Replit app and typed this as I'm feeding her some mushy carrots. I just pull the app up and I go, hey, I need this app that lets me track 100 foods that I'm trying to feed my baby as a way to expose her to all sorts of food. And 45 minutes later, when I'm done feeding her and cleaning up, the app is ready. And last night we tracked all of her food, and on an ongoing basis can see her progress towards that. I think it was so magical because I could have downloaded 50 apps that existed on the App Store, but none of them quite fit my exact use case. And I was able to create that bespoke software. So I think, to me, it's almost most folks have something or the other that they've always wished existed, a small something. Trying that just lets you see the power of platform and kick the tires a little bit, get used to what Replit can do, get acquainted with it. And then from there, you can really start to dial it up. And with the Agent 3 changes, the agent is so powerful, it can truly create large, viable, production-grade applications that you can sell or give to a wider audience as a builder or a creator. It feels intimidating at first. The idea feels a little far-fetched, but I think just trying the smallest of things can hopefully help people quickly see the value, see the potential, and get acclimated to what's possible.
Yeah. I really like that as a step one, because I think so often and I've done this in the past, is when we try to like start companies or businesses, we come in with like all of this energy and like aspiration and ambition of like, I'm going to build this successful thing. And then that's kind of, I feel like, when the procrastination and like everything will start to build with that pressure. And the thing I love about what you described, it's like, just start solving your own problems. And we've all had that experience of like, maybe you're driving in the car, or you're like trying to solve something, or you're looking for something, and you're like, isn't there an app for this? Or hasn't someone already built a product? Like, why doesn't this already exist? And now it's like, the second that you have that pain and that frustration, you can just go build the thing. So I love that as a first point of like, just start solving your own problems. But you know what? Let's get into it. Can you pull up Replit and like let's get started.
Let's do it. Let's dive into this app that I was just describing to track food eating for my 7-month-old. this is the app. I'll start here as I'm tracking 100 foods. She's tried 3, and the allergens and a breakdown of fruits versus vegetables versus proteins, etc. And this took me about, well, I spent about 45 minutes on this, if that, while in the moment, while I was experiencing this problem. And so what I would love to do is just kind of show the journey of how this happened. I did all of this on mobile, but we can start right here and see what how I went about it.
Okay, nice. Let's do it.
Great. So last night, as I was saying, I was feeding her in the middle of feeding her, and I go to my mobile app. We're viewing this on desktop, but there is a Replit mobile app. I'm personally a big user of that because ideas come to you in the shower or as you're going about your life on a walk, and you just type them right in, let it do its thing while you are busy doing other things. So basically, my prompt was as simple as, my daughter, here's her name, here's the app that I want to create, tracking all the foods she's trying, laying out my specific scenario of she's pescatarian, we want to cross off all the allergens, and also help me recommend the next food she should try. I just type this away. I go back to feeding her. Replit agent gets to work. It starts out by first making a plan. I think this is always helpful because it can very quickly, from your really vague attempt of an idea, help you refine that idea. What exactly are you trying to build? So first thing Replit agent does is break it down into exactly the following things it is going to build. And at that point, you can either decide to iterate on the plan. You can say, hey, actually, that's not what I was looking for. I would also love this. Maybe skip this. But once you've done that, you've really kicked it into gear. So at this point, for me, it was, this looks great, start building. And it unleashes the agent.
Just
as you can see, it's
one quick thing, Amol. Sorry to interrupt. Is so you go in and basically the first thing, so you get into Replit and you're doing it on your phone, you're doing it on the mobile app, is you're just giving context on like the situation, like everything that's happening, what you're experiencing. When you kind of at the bottom of that first prompt, that first message that you put into Replit, are you asking it to build a plan, or are you literally just saying like, here's the context of what I want to build, and then you hit enter and it's automatically just giving you how it's going to go about it?
Yeah, so it's automatically does that. The idea there is people have ideas, but they might not have thought a lot more about them quite yet. And if the Replit agent understands exactly what you're looking for or does that clarification, then it's better set up for success. Then it can truly meet your needs. And so we found a lot of value in this planning phase. We call it the planning phase, where you can throw out a very vague idea, but Replit agent is smart enough to go back and forth with you to come up with a plan and till both parties feel great and there's a clear path for AI to go do its job. So every single time you give it a prompt, it will do some thinking, it will do planning, and it will try to first thing come up with a list of task list. It's almost it taking that vague prompt, clarifying, turning it into a clear task list that you can say, sounds good, or make changes to as you see fit.
I guess how, so once it's shared the plan, how often do you find yourself actually going back and forth with Replit over the plan? Or is it more just you're taking a quick glance over it and you're actually like, yeah, this sounds pretty good to me, and you just carry on? What have you found in your experience?
Yeah, it's been a learning experience of sorts, if you will. At first, my hunch or my ideas used to be very vague. I will just throw them out there, and in that case, there was quite a good amount of back and forth to clarify what exactly I needed. Over time, I've learned to give it more detail. and give it the specific type of detail it does well with. I think in a lot of ways, AI sometimes has personalities and its quirks, and you over time learn how to work well with it. And so over time, I've really dialed and figured out what makes for a good prompt. And I think laying out who you're building for, what's the core capability that, or what's the job to be done, if you will. Giving it those two things already helps you achieve much better results. So over time, I've gotten it dialed a lot more where my prompt, we are in sync, the Replit AI and I'm in sync, where I give it a prompt, it comes up with a great task list. Most of the time, it looks great, and I just go ahead, start building.
Yeah. That's really cool the way that you explained it, because it's like you actually become better at prompting the agent by just prompting the agent and like going through those reps. Um, no, that's good stuff. Okay, yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think to that point, the ChatGPT moment that happened 2-3 years ago, we all over time have learned how to work better with ChatGPT. We've gotten better at prompting, and I think similar things are playing out across other AI products as well.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Great. So the planning phase at this point, I feel good about it. So I go ahead and say, start building. At this point, what we like to do with Replit is free you up to go live your life and do the things that you were doing. And so at this point, Replit, especially Replit Agent 3 that we recently launched, is highly autonomous, where with that plan that we've agreed on, it's able to execute by itself, on it by itself. It's able to go deep. It's able to really execute by itself and keep making progress. So once I did that, as you'll see, it starts to figure out, I need to create a baby food tracking app. It starts building. One of the coolest things it does is every time it gets something working, it now knows to test the functionality that it created. I think this is very important because it's AI checking its own work and making sure that it's tracking towards the tasks that we agreed on. So if it introduced a bug or if something broke by any chance, it is able to then detect it itself, adapt its plan, introduce a new task item of, I need to fix something that I didn't really go about doing. I think this has been incredibly powerful. We call it testing, but giving Replit Agent the power of not just building, but also testing what it's built really unleashes that power and makes it more autonomous, where it will get to the results of what you want much better and on its own.
Yeah. You know what? We hear like words like autonomous, and I'm taking the perspective of I'm someone that doesn't have like a coding background. And so this is even what you guys I took this from your website. I took this from the Replit blog. It said Agent 3 runs on its own for up to 200 minutes, handling full tasks autonomously, building, testing, and fixing your app with minimal manual oversight, giving you hours of time back. We hear words like autonomous and it runs on its own. I just want to make it so like real for people. Can you talk about how big that is, the fact that it can go for up to 200 minutes by itself, and what is the impact in terms of what that person watching at home is going to feel when they're actually using this?
Yeah, it truly, with Agent 3, we've truly pushed the frontier of what was possible with coding agents. The idea behind agent running for a long time is it frees the human up to pursue other creative things, to pursue other things that are valuable, rather than watching an agent and babysitting an agent in its pursuit of completing the task you gave it. In software development, and this is something engineers have felt for the longest time, but now as more and more people get the power of building with Replit, noticed as well, it's very important to test every single functionality that you create. But that's a very, very monotonous, time-consuming task that isn't really enjoyable because you're going about clicking those same buttons. I think in a lot of ways, the power of the premise of AI is that it can take away those mundane, monotonous tasks, so humans are focused on more creative ones. And I think that's what this autonomy, the fact that it tests itself and corrects itself, unlocks, where you as a human aren't continuously being interrupted, or you don't have to sit here, babysit this agent, test every single thing it creates. It can do that by itself. And keeps itself on track, keeps itself making forward progress, only interrupts you when it truly needs your help, rather than interrupting you at every single task it completes, asking you to test it, telling you that it's completed. I think this is in some ways the future that we envision with AI. It is gonna do a lot for the humans autonomously in the background, while humans can go about living their lives, spending time with their family, doing creative pursuits, as we talked about.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're exactly correct. It's like that feels like almost the utopia, like the thing that we heard about the future of AI and technology is that we would have these like AI agents in the background that are like performing tasks without us even really having to give them super detailed minute by minute oversight. Uh, and with this, it actually seems that we're there. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it was such a big jump from Agent 2 to Agent 3. The team just did a really amazing work pushing the frontiers here. And case in point, as I last night was trying to build this specific app, it ran for, I believe, 45 or so minutes. And by the time it sent me a notification, here we will see it right here, it had already accomplished all of these things. It had created the food logging system. It had created a food database and search. It had created that tracking mechanism, food suggestions. And at this point, it ran for 46 minutes without interrupting. So I could spend time with my child and actually feed her while this app was being created for me in the background without me having to test. So at this point, I get a push notification. She's gone to bed. I log in, and it's already working really, really well. There are a couple of rough edges that I need to polish out, but it's always impressive. I do this often as a part of my job, but also because it's just so. It still blows my mind, even after having done it hundreds of times, how powerful and capable Replit Agent is, and how amazing, mind-blowing it feels every single time when you go from just that idea to a working application.
Yeah. You know, it's almost like the 4-step process that you follow is idea, and then you have like the plan and the spec kind of phase where you're like, which is what we showed in the beginning with the going over the plan. Then you kind of let the agent run, and that's the new thing with Agent 3 is that you can actually just let it run autonomously. That's step 3. And then you kind of have the polish at the end. You know what, we're going to get into the polish, but before we do, I want to talk about that phase just before where the agent is actually just running. The first thing that kind of went in my mind is that with Agent 3, with the new agent that you guys have built, the planning phase actually feels more important, because if you're going to let it go and run for, I'm assuming in the planning phase is when it's telling you what it will do when the agent is running. So you kind of want to make sure that you're on the same page so that in that 45-minute span of time, it's building what you want. Is that what you've found, or are you actually actively kind of like checking on your phone even in that 45-minute space of time to make sure that what it's building is what you want?
So our thinking on this is exactly what you said. That planning phase is now so important. It's a newer paradigm. You know, no coding agents have been able to run for so long. So we are really trying to create this this comprehensive planning experience where you and the agent can have an agreement on what exactly needs to be done, and then it has clear guidance and clear direction on what to go execute against. And so I think that the planning step becomes incredibly important, and we are trying to encourage our users to spend more time there to really refine that task list. Almost think of it as a to-do list that you are both aligning on, that is really clear to the agent on what it needs to do, so you don't have to constantly be checking after you've set it in motion. We still see users, and I myself find doing this as well. The curiosity gets the better of you, and you want to jump in and see what exactly is being built. But that's a really fun experience as well, because in real time you see it cooking up different screens, cooking up different functionality. On this preview page, you truly see features and views appear, and that's a really magical thing too. So as users are trying out Replit for the first time, it certainly is a very, very rewarding experience to watch it work. But over time, once you start building a lot of apps, as long as you spend a good amount of time on the planning phase, you're setting everyone up for success, yourself and the agent, and you can truly let it run and let it deliver on the tasks that you aligned on.
Yeah. You know what? So just to go on that planning phase, when you're looking at the plan, because and I said this even in the beginning, you're the head of product engineering at Replit. Like you're a Replit expert. And so I think a lot of this stuff is probably pretty intuitive to you in terms of, okay, this plan looks good. I'm thinking about that person that's watching this for the first time and using Replit for the first time. Are there certain things that they should be looking for in the plan that it's like, okay, this is ready to run?
Great question. And maybe perhaps we can try and do this live.
Let's do it.
So I'm gonna take exactly the idea that I've been working with, and I will hit start chat. Great. As it's working, we can start to you can see it goes by default to the plan phase first, where it's working, it's thinking, it's trying to come up with a plan. In terms of what to look out for here, in a lot of ways, an idea can be broken down into what are the specific user flows or what are some specific actions that the user needs for this idea that you're thinking of. It's almost features is a good way to think about it. Is if I'm putting in an idea like this, the features I'm hoping for are log my food, get recommendation for the next food item, be able to track overall progress. If I truly, the agent tries to do exactly that. It tries to take that idea, that broad concept, and really break it down into specific features, specific actions that the user is going to take. So in a lot of ways, what you as the builder are trying to do here is make sure that it matches your expectations, that it is indeed what you want your application that you're building here to do. So as I had put that prompt in here, it comes back and lists out all those features where it says, I'm creating a food tracking dashboard with visual progress. Sounds good to me. Allergen checklist. That matters a lot in a lot of ways. That's the goal of introducing foods for a baby. That food suggestion engine with age-appropriate pescatarian foods. I really like that agent even took the liberty of, and it was smart enough to think about age-appropriate foods, because that's so important. That's not something I had given to it, but it was smart enough to come up with that. It was the styles of baby feeding, a recipe database, that seems great. A food log, great. And then a food calendar. At this point, I could say, this all looks good overall, or I could start by saying, change plan. I don't really care for a calendar. I don't need to see dates of when my child consumed a certain food. I primarily care about all the foods that they've consumed. So at this point, this is what I will dial in on and really My recommendation for most folks that are trying Replit for the first time is try to build a smaller set to start. At this point, I will say, hey, I care about three things primarily. Let me change the plan to only include those, and then say, all right, let's go ahead and build the entire app and let Agent unleash from there.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff. I like the idea of like of simplifying it, of starting, you're going over those features because you're so right in the sense that when we have an idea, we think about the big picture idea and what problem it's going to solve. We don't think in the detail of what are the features that go into that. And so kind of in the beginning is actually getting to your three, like what are those three features? You know what? Because I see it at the bottom of the screen, the build the entire app and versus start with a design. You went with build the entire app. What is kind of the case for each one? Like, why would someone go with build the entire app versus why would someone go with start with a design?
Great question. So Replit gets used by a wide variety of people, and they're optimizing and looking for different types of outcomes. One thing we often see is folks trying to create landing pages, for example. And in that case, the design, the visual look and feel matters a lot more. Certain users really want to see what my application is going to look like before they build out the broad functionality. This is something, for example, in the tech world, product managers and designers, we often see them start with this. They're visual. They want to create the layout, the visuals first, and be able to feel good about that before saying, all right, let's go build this entire app. But if you're a person who's more interested in, I'm creating an application, this plan looks great to me, the feature set makes sense, it does make sense to just go ahead and build the entire application, because once Agent has created something, you can still iterate within on that design. You can still iterate on the colors, the branding, the layout, what have you. It's just different use cases of what folks are coming to Replit with. And start with design, we primarily see product managers and designers in the tech world use this as a way to create quick prototypes where they're not looking for full-fledged applications. They're primarily looking to bring to visualize an idea that they have for their product.
You know what? And I'm interested to get like your personal take on this. And maybe every person that we'd ask at Replit would say something different. But you kind of explain, like, there's people building apps on Replit, like software, building landing pages, like they're building a variety of products. Is there a certain sort of almost like idea that you see that you just think that Replit, yes, it can build all of these things, but it excels at building this sort of either idea or product? I'm curious for you, like, is there something that you've seen where you're like, okay, yeah, it actually does a really just great job of that?
I think Replit is extremely capable at building fully functional apps. It's really capable at building something that's production grade, that's end to end, something that you can indeed give out to real users, your friends, etc. So my sort of leaning is for those things. I see Replit less of a, or I would encourage folks to, for real, if you're seeking to bring real ideas to life, this is the place. Replit is the place for you. If you're primarily trying to build a landing page or a website of sorts, just a website, front end website, if you will, then there might be other places that are perhaps better suited for it. So I think that's the entire end-to-end production grade, functional, performant application that you will feel proud of giving to real users. Replit really shines at that. It comes with all the bells and whistles and the building blocks that you need to accomplish that. So that's my bias for it. That said, we see a ton of users also build landing pages and marketing surfaces and very visual only things with Replit.
Yeah. And that's cool to know. I like that. It's good to have that clarity. Um, building apps. Okay. So you hit build the entire app, and then that's when you go into in the in the case of the baby food, that was that 45-minute window of time when it just went and kind of built it out for you.
Exactly. Yeah. So at that point, this was the interactive part of the journey where I had to put in the idea, I had to look over the plan, I had to make sure it was good. Agent does a really great job at planning phase, and usually it is very good. And so for me, it was a one click, this looks good. Let's go ahead and build the entire app and set it in motion. And that's the point where I would put my phone away and only look for notifications when the agent needs me for any certain inputs. But at this point, we've unleashed the agent. It is going to do all, it is going to build every single one of these features. Every time it builds a feature, it'll test against it. It'll make sure that it works. Keep going, trying to build every single one of these. And then when it's done, it'll let me know.
You know what's interesting? I was just thinking about this as you were speaking. Is if we said, I don't know, it took you 46 minutes to build this app for your daughter, the vast majority of that time, you weren't even really actually present. That was the agent running by itself, building the thing out. It was actually more like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes of your time in terms of in the planning phase. And then I guess when we get into polish, it's actually pretty remarkable.
It is. It is, as we talked about, it's truly bringing the promise of AI to fruition, where AI is doing the work for me while I get to live my life.
Okay, so maybe we let this like run in the background. I'm curious if we go to the one that you already built and we look visually at like even just the design of it and how it looks. How much of that, like I guess once you get out of the autonomous stage, that final piece that we're seeing on screen, how much of that was like it was already done purely by the AI versus you were guiding the design and some of the specifics of that?
In this case, I was very pleasantly surprised. It's one of those things where we've invested a lot in making Replit Agent not just build functional apps, but also pretty visually appealing apps. And so I really, as soon as I saw this, I was pleasantly surprised with the playful tone it took to the whole app. It's an app for feeding babies, for tracking baby food. So it's very playful. There's like light red and green colors. So I felt really good about this. However, if I wanted to change some of these things, I really like Replit gives me that power as well. So for example, I could just theme the entire thing where I could say, hey, I would actually prefer more of a black and white sort of theme. So I can just select this theme and truly control what the look and feel is, down to every single button, every single element. There's just a lot more control there. However, with the recent advancements that we've made on our end on this product, it does a really great job at coming up with that great first theme, and that I found often matches what exactly I'm looking for.
Yeah. You know what? So in the preparation of this episode, obviously I watched back even the video that we did with Matt. I like was reading even the press things that you had about Agent 3. I then actually came on Reddit. Beautiful website of Reddit. And there's this like mega thread where people have left like feedback of their experience of using Replit Agent 3. And one of the things that one of the criticisms that people had of Agent 3 versus Agent 2 was, yes, there's this utility to the autonomous features, but it can take a long time, like on this autonomous portion, and then sometimes it actually doesn't fix the issues, which I guess is why we come into like the polish phase. Can you speak to that? And then also in your personal experience, have you had it where it's like there's actually still problems even when it comes back in terms of the functionality? And how do you fix that?
That thread was very sort of eye-opening to see certain aspects that our users needed, but that autonomy wasn't really providing. And to the credit of our team and how fast they move, we took that feedback very quickly and we turned that into this autonomy level mode where we gave users more of that control, where if they wanted to be a lot more in the driver's seat, then they could dial down the autonomy level to low or medium and have been more of the driver's seat where they're instructing the agent on smaller things. And by giving our power users this, it hopefully meets their expectation or their ways of interacting with our product. I think we're continuously learning. We're listening to our users, and the future is certainly where you as a human don't have to instruct the agent as much. I really like how Amjad, our CEO, describes it. This is in some ways the full self-driving versus the autopilot of self-driving, if you will. I think today there are rough edges, and we are just at the forefront and frontier of this. What I really love about Team Replit is its ability to take feedback and operate against that really quickly. So I wouldn't be surprised in a few weeks we've made the max autonomy, with our continued investments in that full self-driving mode, made this much more useful where our power users also want to switch over to this. But in the meantime, our sort of instinct was to meet where our users are and give them more control over exactly what they need.
Yeah. I get what you're saying about the ideal is actually that most people, 99% of users, just actually use the max autonomy. And we kind of reach this reality where the AI can perform actions to like an elite level without human intervention. But for the time being, have you found that actually the more experience that someone gets with Replit and vibe coding and maybe even just like coding in general, they tend to want to have more. They tend to use kind of go in like the lower settings, like they want more control over how the agent runs. Is that what you found or seen?
Not quite. So I'll share a couple of things. I think when we look at data of how folks are using this, it still leans heavily on max and high. We've seen certain users move to low or medium in certain scenarios. The other thing that I'm seeing as an engineer, we use a variety of products in the AI landscape. Other coding agents and such that are more about writing code than building apps. And more, I find myself, my colleagues, my friends, leaning towards that autonomous mode more. There are products that you truly, even the new ChatGPT with GPT-5, where you want to give it a prompt and let it go on for a long time, do its deep thinking, and just come back with you a really good output rather than giving me its first thought. So I think a lot of the AI world is moving towards that. And as the AI capabilities keep increasing, we will the models and all the products that are built on top of these models will continue to get to that spot where they are, where humans start trusting them more and letting them run autonomously. In my personal experience, I definitely find myself leaning more and more there of firing off tasks and trusting the AI more to do these tasks for me. But I think, change is hard. Humans have a tendency to want control. So it will take time for all of us to learn how to work better with this ever evolving, incredibly fast evolving technology that AI is.
Yeah. You know what? So let's say for the beginner that's watching this, they're building their first piece of software. They're using the Max. They're using AI Agent 3 and they're using it on the max setting. They've kind of gotten to this point similar to where we are now, where like they have this visual, like they've just had this magic moment of like it's before them. And now like the autonomous agent has produced the thing. Talk to me about that polish phase. Like, how do I go from okay, it's 90% built and I can see it in front of me to this is actually the final, not the final, but it's like the final V1, like the final version 1 that I could actually go and deploy. Like, take me through that polish phase, that final 10%.
Absolutely. I think that 10% is often a very interactive, small improvements type of journey where it's less asynchronous, it's more synchronous. You have to work closely with the agent on these small asks that you desire. For me personally, we can look through some of this specific example as well, where when we after the first 46 minutes of running, it gets me to a state that I feel pretty good about. At this point, it's done 46 minutes of work. I look at the product. My first thought, the visuals actually look really good. I like this and I do not want to change a lot of this. I will personalize this over time, put my baby's face on there to make it more fun. But first thought, I go ahead and I try to use the functionality. And what I see is it was trying to show me progress day by day. So my first ask to it is, instead of that today's progress, I want you to show me headline metrics of how she's tracking, that how much percentage of the food journey is complete. And so that's one of the first things I ask it. As soon as I do that, in a minute later, it comes back and just gives me, hey, that's done. At this point, I could have batched my requests of, I want you to change the headline metrics, I want you to include this, that, and it would have gone on and done all of those tasks. But I was sitting in front of my computer testing this. As I was thinking of ideas, I'm just putting them in here and continuing to go about testing the rest of the app and experiencing what the agent has created so far. And so even with the max autonomy mode, if the task is small, the agent's smart enough where it just makes that task and comes back to you, hey, I'm done. So this was less than a minute of work. And then similarly, I realized as I was continuing to test let me add a date for when she consumed the food, because I might forget to log and I want to log something in the past. So I give it that. It is again able to just do that rather quickly. It realizes that adding a date is a significant action and things might break. So it figures out it needs to do some testing. It does all of that testing. And I believe a few minutes later, it detects some things are wrong, makes all of those changes, and it comes back to me, hey, I've made your updates that you asked for. So the date picker is working. And this was a longer action that took about 20 minutes of work because it had to introduce the concept of date-based tracking rather than just tracking in general. So it's often certain things are small, certain things are large. It's hard to say just by looking at the app. My personal preference is to just keep adding these messages in this chat box. There's even a queue here. Agent is smart enough to just queue them up and keep working on them one by one. Or oftentimes, if I notice multiple things, I'll just give it all to one. But this polish phase, this sort of like the last 10% phase, tends to be a little bit more interactive, where you are experiencing the first version that it creates and trying to work your way to that production ready thing that you are happy with and want to push out to the world.
Yeah. It's kind of it's cool because listening to you talk about it almost feels like play. in a way. Like you're kind of you're giving it certain things. You're like, okay, add this in, and then you're taking it away, and you're kind of like playing around with like getting to that perfect thing for you. For that person that's actually looking to create an app that one day they have on the App Store on like iOS or on the Play Store on Android, are there any kind of secrets, tips that you have that's like it's just gonna accelerate that polish phase and actually get you to something that's like not only is it useful for you as an individual, that you could see similar to what Michael Messenger did with Zillow, like millions of like a lot of people are actually using it. Like it's actually like it's reached a level of polish where a broad spectrum of people could actually be using it.
Yeah, I think few sort of things go into that process of going from something that is, for the lack of a better word, a prototype, to taking it to something that is truly production ready. And the way sort of we see our users do it, the way we recommend is Replit wants to take a lot of that burden upon itself. It wants to be able to give you all the tools that allow you to get to that spot quickly. And so, that's where things like testing come into play, because it is testing and it is discovering if there's any bugs. So before you push out, the bugs are addressed. That's where this full visual control comes into play, where you can truly polish to your heart's content of, I believe that this needs to be a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. It allows me to do things like that. But even more importantly, it does things like security scan, where if you've built something, it will go ahead and do a scan of all your code and your functionality to make sure that it's actually secure, where you're not going to leak your users' data. There's a lot of tools that we offer the users for visual control, functionality, ensuring that the functionality is solid and stable, ensuring that it's safe and secure. And even so much so that we have, our publishing flow lets you publish it in a scalable way, where you might launch it to, you might launch it and one or two users use it, but then everyone suddenly discovers it and loves it. It will serve thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of users, no problem, automatically, without you having to worry about any of that. So our philosophy here is, we've invested in a lot of tools, a lot of guidance, and a lot of help that you have available within the Replit platform to actually enable you to take that idea to production. So that's why we see users, in fact, publish these ideas.
Yeah. No, it's so cool. On the design aspect, because you mentioned earlier, you spoke about adding a picture of your daughter, and it kind of got this thought and idea like started in my mind, which is, I think for a lot of beginners, and when you're just starting out with something, usually there's like an app or another product that has inspired you. You're like, oh, I would love for my app to look similar to this app, or I'd love for my landing page to look like the Nike or the Air Jordan or the Apple like website in terms of its design. Is that something that can actually be done with Replit, where like could I take a screenshot of like another app that I just like the way design wise it looks on my phone, for example? Could I upload that screenshot into Replit and have it actually almost like mimic the design language and like look and feel of that app? Is that possible, or am I just living in like in a delusional land right now?
That is absolutely possible. So we let you, if I wanted to change this to look more like, for the lack of a better example, Instagram, I could take a screenshot of Instagram, just paste it right in here, and then let it the agent's smart enough to extract the visual look and feel, the theming, the styling, and apply it. In fact, I have a great example for this. There's this I wake up in the middle of the night quite a bit, can't fall back asleep, need a sleep story to fall asleep. I use a product that shall remain nameless, and it's fairly expensive and with no real value. It's 20 static stories. I'm so tired of listening to the same stories. So I decided to build an app that just does it. I want to publish this on one of the stores, take it live, make money off of it. In fact, hopefully someday. And as a part of doing that, I took inspiration from certain websites. I took a screenshot and just gave it because I wanted it to look calming like this. Because in the middle of the night, I want to be looking at something calming like this. So I in fact took screenshot from another app and gave it for it to mimic that look and feel, and it did a pretty great job at something like that as well. So within maybe a couple hours of work, I was able to create this where I have full control over what story I want to listen to, in what accent, British accent does really well for falling asleep. Also, what background sounds, and then in this very soothing theme that this app has, and was able to build this. And now I'm really hoping to take this live and let people create their own sleep stories and charge them money for it.
Yeah, we need to know like when is it? We need to know when it's going to be live. That would be a good.
Absolutely. I need the distribution, so I will let you know.
I guess because looking at this actually just looks like a professional product. Like this just looks like something you wouldn't be like, oh yeah, it took them a couple of hours to build this. You would just be like, this is something that they're charging for. Like this is just like a business. I guess we go through, so we go from idea to the planning, the agent running, we then polish it. At what point in your mind, as like an engineer, as someone like an expert in terms of Replit and then also coding, is it ready to deploy? So is it ready to deploy? And then how does someone go about doing that?
There's this Silicon Valley axiom that you'll hear people say, if you're not embarrassed of something by the time you launch it, you've launched it too late. I believe in that. I think a lot of people do, because if you're trying to solve a problem as a business builder, you can always keep polishing, and polish can take a lot of time. But if the functionality works really well, my instinct is to put it out there, is to let people have that functionality already. Like today, there aren't a lot of tools that let you create your sleep story like this. So I'm not happy with the exact look and feel here. There's more work for me to do here, but I would rather be a little embarrassed by some of this, as long as it can provide value. And users that actually have this pain or have this desire will run through slightly buggy things or even unpolished things to actually use this app. So my hope is I would try to get this live and then in background continue to evolve on it. So there's a version 1, a version 2, a version 3, that fast iteration. I think building businesses, it's so important to test early, test often, validate that people do in fact need a sleep story app.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? Like in the beginning, we spoke about like the speed and actually figuring out like the fastest way to go live is actually really important. And so it's like you deploy actually the version 1, you're getting feedback on that, and then in the meantime you're also like iterating rapidly to get to version 2 and version 3. Like that's in your mind, that's how successful AI businesses are going to be built? You think today and going into the future, it's going to be about that speed?
100%. I think the landscape is evolving so fast. The capabilities of what the foundational technology, the AI models, is evolving so fast, and I think it's a crowded field with a lot of products being created. You know, with tools like Replit, we've truly unleashed that, where anyone can be a builder, anyone can build something. So the field is crowded. There's lots happening. It's always better to to anchor towards getting something out there quick and really getting in hands of your users and seeing that real feedback, that real giving the ensure that you are providing them the value that you set out to, rather than taking your sweet time. I think speed has always been a very critical thing for businesses, and it's even more so in today's AI world of fast moving things where the barrier to entry of how long it takes for someone to build the technology or the product itself is so low that you want to anchor for speed.
Do you think we get to the point where people are building multi-million dollar apps just like on their smartphone, like they're experiencing a problem, they're typing about it into Replit agent or whatever the software is, and the first version of what that app looked like that went on to make millions of dollars was actually just fully built off their smartphone in that conversation?
I absolutely see that happening. It's We are so early in this journey still. What we're doing today is amazing. 6 months from now, say Agent 4 comes out, I see this capability just exponentially increasing. And so as a builder, you are sitting down to dinner, you can just type up your idea and let the agent do things for you, and in a couple hours build you something that you can, with one click, publish to the world, even distribute it seamlessly from just that phone without having to spend a lot of time on it. At Replit, we truly believe that it's not just about helping people build apps. It's about helping them build real products, that we also help them distribute and monetize. How might we give you the capability to talk to your users, to notify them, to send them emails, if you will? How do we create ways for you to grow your products? How do we create ways for you to easily monetize your products? So I can easily add, for every sleep story, charge $1 to the user. So we are truly working on that end-to-end cycle. And as we do that, it should be very much possible for an entrepreneurial person sitting anywhere in the world to go to their smartphone, type up their idea, iterate a couple of times, and set it live, and see it catch fire.
Yeah. You know what? I'm curious to get your perspective. Like, is there a downside to that? Because and the reason I ask that is we have conversations like this, and it's like the opportunity. And honestly, I love sharing it with people, like what's possible. But then the general discourse around AI that I see for the most part on the internet is more of like a doomsday scenario. And so I'm always thinking to myself, I'm like, what's the truth here? Like, is there gonna be a detriment and a negativity to humans being able to have that capability?
I have a very optimistic view on this. I think AI as a technology is primarily going to take on the mundane, the annoying things that humans have to do today, and free us up for the creative pursuits, free us up for family, for friends, for all the things that a human might enjoy. I almost think of this as instead of people having to do work for a living, they might work for their passions. Yeah, that's my view of how us humans are going to be able to build this technologies in a safe way where it is used for the betterment of the society. It takes us from the age of, in agriculture, people having to use their hands to sow seeds, to the combine that to creating the machine, the combine that does it for you. So you, as the farmer, can own more land, grow more crops, feed more people. I truly think of it as that leap of just freeing us up to do other more creative pursuits and solve more problems.
Yeah. No, we hope so. We hope so. You know what? So the first iteration of Replit Agent, when was that? That was what that's all kind of come in the last like
Late last year.
yeah. So in the last like 12 months. So if we went, and I'm not going to ask you exactly what's in Replit Agent 4 or like what you guys are working on there. If we had to so 12 months ago we didn't even have Replit Agent. Now we have Replit Agent 3 and it's like running autonomously. 12 months into the future, where do you think we're at in terms of what AI and some of these things are capable of?
I think that is if I were to really think of this in terms of Replit and what we are trying to do, I think that word that you brought up, capable of, the capabilities is the exact thing. I think making the agent more capable across a variety of vectors is what we're going to see in the next 6 to 12 months. Today it does a great job of building that app. How do we make it more capable so it does the entire software lifecycle, where it does a better job at planning, it does a better job of writing and testing, it does a better job of organizing the code so every subsequent action is easier. How does it do more than that? How does it help you distribute and monetize, like we were talking about? Capabilities on the vector of what it can produce. Today it produces web apps primarily. How do we help it create mobile apps that you can one-click publish to the stores? How do we help you create automations which you can just set off in the background? Software is not forever going to be this UI that we interact with. How do we create software that does job in the background where you just assign tasks to it, and like agent creating more agents, if you will? That sort of capability. Capability of it connecting to more of your systems. So it has access to your emails, it has access to your Slack, it has access to any app you use out there. So it can build better software, it can tie them together, it can automate parts of your life, it can let you create businesses to that end. So I truly see it in terms of capabilities. There is so much to do with all of those across all these vectors, and that's where a lot of investment we are making. So Replit Agent 4 should be a lot more powerful, allowing you to build businesses, allowing you to solve your own problems, and across many dimensions.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, there was two things that I thought about. And you mentioned them pretty early in the conversation. The first thing that you said is that, you wanted to leave your mark. You mentioned that. You said, I wanted to leave my mark. That's why I even wanted to build a business and be an entrepreneur in the first place. And then the second thing I think about, even some of the things that you're doing with Replit right now, where the mission is to enable 1 billion people to build software. I just think about those two things. Like, you're working on this mission to enable 1 billion people. There's going to be millions of people. There's already I don't even know how many people you guys have seen have actually built things using Replit. On a personal level, Amol, the human being, what does it mean to you, some of the things that you've been able to achieve, that your work and even the impact of what you're seeing, of people are actually building their very first businesses, pieces of software through an AI agent that you had a hand in creating?
Yeah, so there's the whole idea of leaving a mark on the world sounds somewhat selfish as a pursuit. I think it's almost an innate desire that I have, other entrepreneurs have as well, but it often leads to great outcomes because you end up creating a product that solves a problem for people. For me, it's always been about helping people make a better living. I joined Airbnb a long time ago, and initially when I joined, it was all about travel, like, travel is a great way of knowing the world and getting to understand other people. I joined it from a traveler's perspective, but very quickly, what I really enjoyed at Airbnb was the host perspective, where hosts have these houses that they're paying giant mortgages on. How do we help them monetize those? How do they get to use this big asset, which is usually a big chunk of their net worth? They're able to monetize that. I think that was very powerful to see their stories and help them achieve that. I got to do that for Airbnb experiences, which was sort of the same idea of how do we let people monetize their time, take pride in showing their city, but get paid in return for that, a new career, if you will. From there, I left to start a company, which was, again, very much focused on helping hourly workers. Hourly workers have had it really hard in America for the longest time. There's no flexibility, pay is bad, all those things. So really taking that angle of how do we help them earn a better living? And then as I came across Replit, I really liked that part as well of by enabling people to create software, we are enabling them to perhaps become, create businesses and create prosperity for themselves and others. So I think that is a problem of helping people achieve things, helping people make a living is something I get excited about. And I think this would be sort of the mark that I hope to leave on the world. And Replit especially has been very, very powerful at doing that. I think, I'm so much closer to the direct impact and seeing it unleash over the, billions of people over the next few years.
Yeah. It's awesome. But before we get out of here, I'm so big on like these conversations are like actionable and practical. And as soon as someone like clicks off of this window or like ends this video, there's something that they can go and do. And so we're coming into the weekend. If you were going to give someone a challenge of like on your Saturday morning or your Sunday afternoon when you have a couple of spare hours, like go and do this and the time will not be wasted. Like you will be infinitely grateful. Maybe you'll even experience that kind of magic that we spoke about earlier of like the first thing that you build, like being able to see that software built. What is a challenge that you would give someone of like, okay, you have some time this weekend, go and do this, and it's not something that you're going to regret?
I would say spend your Saturday being attuned with perhaps things that you're bothered by, things that you see there aren't efficient, some thoughts of you, something you wish existed based on your personal life. I think it's a great exercise in itself of being attuned to what's going on and noticing problems. I think especially for business builders, that's the step one. And Sunday morning, open up the Replit app, type that, and in the next few hours, see it come to life. And if you are truly motivated, try to take it to production. Try to put it out there. Try to send it to your friends. Try to send to some potential users, and see if in a weekend you can go from discovering an idea to getting it in the hand of one real user. I guarantee you, it is very much possible.
Yeah. Amol, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you making the time and being so open with us. I think it's gonna help a lot of people. So thank you.
Thank you, Callum. Really, thank you for having me. This was a great chat. Really loved sharing things about Replit, and I'm very excited to see what people build.
Okay, so if you enjoyed this episode, you're going to absolutely love what we did with this one right here. Click here.